Sir, please introduce yourself and your experience.
I'm Yogananda. I have a background in civil engineering. I have done my master's and PhD in Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, in the related topics of housing in terms of developing technologies for materials which consume less energy, less embodied energy. That is what we are trying to do on mud blocks and building alternatives.
Sir, what is Mrunamayi, Mahija, Mahimayi and Gram Vidya? When Gram Vidya started?
See, Mrinmayi is the laboratory for soil testing. We get soils from various places all over India and abroad, and we need to test the soil and give the mixed proportion for the required strength and durability. So, Mrinmayi means Mother Earth. Okay, Mayi is Mother, Mrin is Earth. That started in 1988. And Grama Vidya also started in 1988. Grama Vidya is a voluntary agency which is involved in developing technologies, mainly focused on rural areas, and see how best we can try to conserve materials, conserve energy, and then develop technologies which are useful in rural areas. Professor Jagdish is involved in trying to identify local species and plant them and see what best benefit can be got. Because timber has to be utilized in construction in a better way, which means we grow enough to consume. Only then we can be independent of fossil fuels.
Sir, how Gram Vidya and Mahimayi, Mahija helping those who are the aspirers of the eco-friendly?
Yeah, we conduct one-day workshops here, exposure programs, wherein it is a more intense and interactive session, including the hands-on. So we share our experiences, have an interesting kind of conversation, which will help them to understand why we are doing what we are doing. That is what is important. So more than trying to preach or teach, we share our experiences for them to question, understand, and then take it forward. There is no convincing here. We don't try to convince anybody. So they can understand. If they are interested, they can pursue it. So it is up to them.
So right from planning to designing and construction, what are the services offered by?
Mahija is the firm which is involved in providing architectural and structural services. So basically all the technical inputs necessary to construct a building, that is provided by Mahija in terms of architectural and structural. As I said, Mrinmayi takes care of all the testing activities and training. Mahimaya is like full of mud. It is something like that. Mahimaya. We have these manually operated presses for making mud blocks. You don't need energy, manual operation. So you can produce mud blocks, compacted, what you call as compressed earth blocks, using this manual press. The interesting part is, with an investment of about ₹1,00,000, you can generate employment for 7 people. You less energy, but you can produce good quality block with generation of employment. So this combines. Ultimately, our idea is to look at artisans' skills. Artisans and skills. So we need to upgrade the skills. They have some skills already. We are trying to look at how to upgrade their skills, invest more time on artisans, and see how we can take it forward in a way that we can have better quality buildings. The problem is today, quality of construction is suffering. That is where we need to invest more time, more effort, and if it demands more money for people who are involved in it, it is good. Craftsmanship, artisanship, they will get the pride for the kind of work they are doing. That is something which is necessary. Less on materials. If you use less materials, but you have good artisans to construct, you can definitely have good quality buildings, which are aesthetically good also.
Sir, this 3-story building, when it was built?
This was built in around 94. That time people used to ask, can this technology be used for 3 floors, 4 floors? No, these kind of questions used to come. So we thought we'll demonstrate one building wherein it is a G+2, so 3-story building. And after that, we have also had examples of 4 floors. These are not having any columns and beams. It's not a frame structure. It's completely load-bearing. So load-bearing masonry needs revival. Nowadays, people have kind of forgotten load bearing masonry. Most of the people go for frame structure like reinforced concrete columns and beams, which consume a lot of embodied energy, double that of what happens with a load bearing masonry. So if we revive this load bearing masonry method of construction, we definitely cut down on the embodied energy less than half of what otherwise frame structures consume. At the same time, we upgrade the skills of artisans. So that is the approach.
Sir, what are the materials used in this building construction?
These are stabilized mud blocks. When I say stabilized mud blocks, we put a stabilizer like cement or lime pozzolana or both, and then press it in a manual press to achieve a good compacted block. That is how we can produce it and cure it and use it in the building. That is one of the techniques, using a manual press. But similar raw materials, we can utilize it for rammed earth walls we can construct. We can do stabilized adobe, we can do stabilized cob. We can also do mud concrete, wherein we can recycle demolished waste, building waste, and then recycle it back into the building. So there are different techniques depending on the context and the availability of materials.
After 28 years of this construction, still it is appearing good strength, good quality.
Very simple maintenance, which if it is done, building can perform for a very long period of time. There is no problem.
Sir, here we are seeing one big tree. I'd never seen wild bottom grown like this much. These roots, maybe I think, is spread over.
It might have been, but it has not created any problem, because our concept is to grow more trees and to build less. Trees are more important. Okay, trees give shade, so they give fruits also. They give, as I said, fuel also. So it is important to look at having landscape in terms of trees. We have to plant more, and then if we can build less, it is better. But based on the needs, it should be a need-based construction, because one has to draw a line between need and want. We have to look at embodied energy in a building. That is what is important. What kind of materials are used in a building? What is the process involved in producing that product? That process results in consuming energy. So one has to calculate what is the kind of embodied energy the buildings have. If we can reduce that embodied energy, then we are in the right direction towards eco-friendliness. For example, let us say burnt brick. You need fuel to produce a burnt brick. Can we have another material like stabilized mud block, which consumes less energy compared to burnt bricks, and still have the quality and durability to construct? So that is what we call as wet strength. It should have good wet strength, whatever is required. We can stabilize the soil mix with cement and lime pozzolana, as I said earlier, and get the kind of strength what is required without going through the process of burning. That reduces the embodied energy. So fuel consumption can come down to about, let's say, 30 to 35% of what otherwise you would have used it in the brick. So this has to be thought about properly, and every element in a building, we need to look at what is the alternative which consumes less embodied energy and choose such materials and construct. If that is taken seriously, then you are moving in the direction of eco-friendliness. It is not independent of embodied energy in a building. That is what is important. And design the building properly with good ventilation, light, and have good trees to shade the building also. That's a better approach in terms of designing buildings.
So why should we need eco-friendly structures? How it helps?
If you want to reduce stress on the natural resources, because they are not infinite, all the resources whatever we have, they are finite, which means if you keep exploiting, you will exhaust them. So like somebody was saying, if you consume, what is it you are going to leave for the next generation? We should not be too greedy. We should try to conserve it and utilize to the extent necessary. So when you do that, you are conserving. What is economics after all? Economics is how best you utilize your resources. So eco-friendliness comes in economics only. It is how best you utilize your resources, because resources are finite. It is not infinite. So you have to be careful in utilizing it. That is why we talk about embodied energy. So that you reduce embodied energy, you conserve it. And that is the direction. If one wants to look at taking it forward in terms of sustainability or eco-friendliness, it is in that direction, I would say.
Sir, this is unique and traditional.
People used to build it like that earlier. We have not followed it for whatever reason. Now we have to, rewind and try to understand and then carefully utilize the materials. So load-bearing masonry, somehow or the other, once these frame structures concept came up, they stopped building load-bearing masonry. So we have to revive it now. Reasons can be so many. It's difficult to. People got carried away with the kind of things what probably happened in the West in terms of reinforced concrete, and they started copying it without understanding probably. Where it is required, where it is not required, we need to look at. Wherever it is not required, we don't have to use it.
Sir, does it impact on to reduce in global warming?
Yeah, use the utilization of more energy, more pollution, more global warming. This is the understanding.
What is the major differences between ecological constructions and traditional nowadays? What is conventional? Traditional or conventional construction, cement-based constructions.
See, cement is a good material. We don't have to blame cement for everything. But the way we are using it is the problem. So we have to be careful. It's an excellent material. Use it only to the extent what is needed. That is why I am saying a need-based construction. Here in all these buildings, we don't plaster. Okay, plastering is another area of activity where cement is being used, too much. In a way, to hide the kind of mistakes what they do in construction. They end up plastering in many times. If we can have better quality buildings, we can eliminate plastering also. So we can consume less of energy intensive materials. Cement, steel, glass, these are all highly energy intensive materials. We can reduce that to the extent necessary we can use. So that way it will help us to construct buildings which will consume less energy. And that will help us to reduce all these things, whatever you're talking about, whether it is global warming, carbon dioxide emissions, eco-friendliness, all these things can be achieved to some extent.
Sir, what about ceiling and plastering?
Yeah, even ceiling, you don't have to. See, wherever concrete is used, it is good to do a form finish concrete, which doesn't demand plaster. That means you have to have good quality of work. We need to upgrade the skill. That is why I said craftsmanship has to improve. We need to upgrade skills. So invest on people livelihood, okay? Then you will get better quality building, not just from the materials. And technologies cannot solve all the problems. Technology can be a part of the solution. It all depends on how we approach the construction activity and how we utilize the materials which are available locally. Focus on materials, resources available locally. So, and upgrade the skills of people who are working in the construction field, the artisans, and then, give meaning to their, artisanship.
So what are the different types of walls and which is the best?
There is nothing like which is best. It all depends on the context and the skills of people. There is a cob technique. People are involved in it and they have those skills. Better to recognize those skills and see what kind of upgradation is possible. So I think it's better to look at context under which the construction has to happen. Solve the problem with a better understanding. So we don't want to generalize anything. I think it is better not to generalize. Each one has a place. All these techniques have a place. Apply it with a better understanding of the local situation. That is what I would say. All of them can help us to achieve the quality.
What are the major available wall structures in our eco-friendly construction?
Most of the constructions, whatever we have been working on, most of them are built with stabilized mud blocks using a manual press. That is what is accepted by people. And then without plastering, they do the pointing. They like the exposed brickwork. Walling material, masonry material, if you look at. Then comes rammed earth, then stabilized adobe. Now we are looking at mud concrete. Several mud concrete buildings are also coming.
Today, people are coming forward to construct eco-friendly structures. But at the same time, there are huge scarcity for artisans and builders. How can we beat this?
Our first priority is artisan training. Wherever people are interested to train artisans, in fact, Sudhakar keeps traveling. Wherever there is a necessity to train artisans, that is the first thing, because artisans training is the main thing which will help us to construct better buildings, better quality buildings in terms of both aesthetics and construction quality. And it is the livelihood of the artisans which is important also. And appreciate their craftsmanship, engage them in better quality construction. They will also have pride in the kind of work what they are doing, and they can also pass it on to the next generation. So that is what we are seriously looking at it.
Eco-friendly constructions are really good. Then why governments are not encouraging?
We need to have probably orientation programs for them, and if they have any questions, we need to address them. I don't know. We'll have to see. Earlier we used to come to Hyderabad, National Institute for NIRI, Rural Development. Whether it is rural or urban, the requirement of the building will not change depending on the proposed construction. So even in an urban situation, it can be done. Even in a rural area, it can be done. But what kind of doubts they have, what kind of suspicion they have, we need to figure it out. But there are some of the government examples also. In fact, Bangalore Nirmiti Kendra building, rural Nirmiti Kendra building is being built with this only, load-bearing mason. It is their admin office, and they seem to be very happy with it. That's a good example of a government building. So people in government should go and see that and understand it, and maybe one can have good interaction with them and see how best we can communicate these ideas, see how they can take it forward.
I think lack of information, lack of communication, lack of encouragement, maybe this is like...
Maybe they are busy in their own way. They have to slow down, and probably people have to understand these things, and they will find it useful, I think.
Sir, can you say in synopsis the top 10 benefits of the eco structure?
There are so many benefits. See, first of all, if you talk about eco construction, we need to look at our lifestyle first. How we live, how we can simplify our life itself, how we understand life. That becomes much more important. Only then rest of it comes. Our food, what we eat, where it comes from. So, and our needs. How do we understand our need? Without all these things being questioned and understood, construction technology by itself is not a solution. That is why I am saying everything has to come together. Our lifestyles have to change. The way we think maybe needs more introspection. And how we can, bring the big gap between the rich and poor. We need to, reduce that gap. So all these thoughts have to be there. That is why I am saying invest in the livelihood of people. Rest of it will happen. The benefits, if you look at, we conserve materials, we conserve energy, we reduce carbon dioxide emissions, which will help in general for the whole planet Earth. That is what I would like to say. I think all these are part and parcel of it. I think anything I add, it looks like repeating the same thing what I have told you.
If we have eco houses, can we discard the ACs and fridges?
See, that's a different question altogether. First of all, we need to design the building depending on the climatic condition. That is very important. So we need to understand the climatology, where you are constructing. Is it a heavy rainfall area? Is it going to be very, very hot in summer? Or it is an extreme, hot and cold extreme? There are very clear-cut design guidelines one is to follow. So design of the building itself is a different subject altogether.
But is it possible to control the climate?
It is possible to reduce the heat. For example, you're talking about air conditioners. Why do you use air conditioner? It is to reduce the temperature inside. Then we can try to look at, that's why I was telling you, trees. It's good to plant trees and have shade. If you shade the building, then to that extent it will reduce the heat inside. So there are definitely possibilities, like give vents to take out the hot air. Design of the building itself is something which one can try to look at. And technology wise, you can have little thicker walls and thicker roofs. Thermal mass we can increase. These are all very clear-cut guidelines which can be utilized to reduce heat so that you don't have to depend on air conditioning. That is possible. But even in the design, you can have semi-open areas. In fact, in a very hot and dry climate, it is good to have semi-open areas wherein you don't have to be in a closed space and feel insufficient air movement. It is good to look at working in a semi-open area. And if you want to rest, you can have an interior room which is not having too much of light, because light is the one which brings heat. The window sizes need to be looked at. You need only to the extent necessary. That's why I said need based. Even light also, if you have too much of light, it comes with heat also. It heats up the space. So thick walls, thick roofs, less openings probably will help to reduce heat inside. And people can have semi-open areas where they need more light, they can utilize it and do the kind of activity, whatever they want to, where it demands more light.
Sir, finally, last and important, whatever the budget compared to the normal constructions?
As I said, nowadays, most of the feedbacks from people who have constructed this, they feel it is more or less similar to any other building construction. But the difference is material cost is coming down, labor cost is going up. Labor cost has to go up. For better skills, you need to pay more. We need to upgrade the skills. Better to invest on people. Invest less on materials. So reduce the material cost. Then we are in the right direction. That is all I can.
Thank you, sir. This is more about saving the energy, saving the environment, and saving everything like sand, cement, steel, and everything. Thank you for enlightening interview, sir.
Thank you.